Hi, my name is Jeannine Walston. In March of 1998, I was diagnosed with a brain tumor. I've had three awake brain surgeries in 1998, 2011, and 2013. In 2014, I had radiation, oral chemotherapy, and a clinical trial, including immunotherapy with a dendritic cell-based vaccine. I know the importance of stories, brain tumor stories that are not understood, including African American women who have their own stories to tell.
My right hand was seizing up on me. And I was in court and I was having a seizure, didn't know what it was, but I looked at my client and she looked at me, and the judge says, Counsel, are you ready to proceed? And my brain just went into a fog. So I decided to go into the hospital and get it, and they recommended an MRI.
I was initially treated with surgery and they removed all that they could, but there was some that they did not want to remove because it was against my motor strip and it would affect my movement going forward. So they watched it for 2 years, after which it began to grow and I was treated with chemotherapy and radiation.
A person to give up. I've always been a fighter. I don't give in. But people need to understand that this glioma is a deadly disease, and more focus needs to be put on this cancer because it's deadly and it kills too many people.
An African American woman and an African American person in general, I believe culturally we aren't always as educated in medical concerns and preventative care.
Some support groups that I've been to, or even sitting at Dana-Farber and looking at the population that I'm sitting with, I haven't seen any other African American women, or even just African Americans in general. It's very, very rare to know that there's somebody else out there who's also, Black. I was born and raised in Kenya, and I think growing up, those were just things that we never thought were like would ever happen. It was always like, oh, like cancer in the United States, So maybe even educating people back home, like in Kenya, to let them know, like, oh, this can happen to you if it can happen to me, and it's very, very rare.
I was mad. I was confused. Why? It was difficult. Sorry. But it also showed me what I was made of. And how important it was to connect with people to make me feel something other than the rage or the sadness or the being overwhelmed. And luckily, I was able to give back.
I became immediately despondent and depressed. It was kind of like, woe is me. But I have learned over the years that life is too short to become depressed. So I don't woe is me anymore.
I am a nurse and I work in a primary care facility, and I work very closely with my patients, and it has been very helpful and powerful for me, but not just for me. It's not about me, but for me to be able to be a light for my patients.
I learned that challenges can become opportunities and adversity into actions. So, what are my actions? What can I do to live longer? What can I do to survive and thrive? And in part, I know that integrative cancer care for the whole person, that includes the physical body, mind body connection, spiritual vitality, social support, and a cleaner environment. All of that improves optimal health and healing.
Stage 3 come back at some time. And here I am almost 14 years later and no reoccurrence. How to eat, how to exercise, doing all these things and also taking care of my spirit by having therapy helped me through.
So my most important self-care strategy is spending time with my family. So again, I am newly married, so being able to spend time with him is important, but also I'm very family oriented. So being able to spend time with my immediate family is wonderful for me. And that really gives me time to recharge and it rejuvenates me.
Like a daily prayer every single morning, and it's the same prayer that I used to say when we were in high school. We had this one prayer that we would say every single day, and I think it's a serenity prayer. But the days when I'm feeling really, really down, I'm like, okay, it gets me, brings me a sense of peace a little bit.
Areas that were affected by cancer. And it's a stretch of many towns throughout the South, and mainly with areas that have oil refineries. And when I was a child, I used to stay with my mom and an aunt, and I could smell that. I could smell the odor was horrific. And we were right next to those refineries, and couldn't wait to get back home to California. But even in California, in Richmond, we're not far from oil refineries. The locations of African Americans in oil refineries is another issue.
Things that are very common in maybe other communities, I think we tend to fall back on. I can definitely think of a couple of years that I just skipped my physical. I was like, whatever, I don't need it. Like they want me to reschedule it and it's like 6 months from now. I'm not going to do it. In Kenya, we don't have a lot of that testing at all. I will say most of my friends are definitely, Kenyan, and they're Black and they're African American, but I personally don't know any of them that have had a history of cancer, not until, more recent. There's maybe a lack of education part of it too, in certain communities. I think that needs to change.
I've had friends reach out to me and say, hey, my friend found out they had a brain tumor. Can you talk to them? And I'm able to do that. And I'm so grateful that I am.
There's an issue, big or small, that you should go follow up with your providers and go be seen, and that it's important to take care of ourselves.
Looking at African American women in their path dealing with a brain tumor provides important education. Moreover, it highlights support and hope.